There are rules you're taught, and then there are rules Machiavelli would never say out loud, the silent ones, the ones that separate the powerful from the powerless, dominance from exposure. Most people think power is something you show, but Machiavelli knew the opposite is true. Real power lies in what you withhold, especially when the world is watching. Because in public, you're not just seen by people, you're seen by opportunity, by reputation, and by those waiting for you to slip. You don't rise by being impressive in public. You rise by being impeccable. And there are 9 quiet behaviors, subtle, emotional, deeply human, that can quietly destroy your mystique, your control, your presence, if you ever reveal them. Never complain in public. You might think it makes you human, even relatable, but to the powerful, it does the opposite. Machiavelli understood this truth. When you complain in public, you signal 2 fatal weaknesses, that you lack control and that you crave sympathy. Both are poison. Power is magnetic to those who can endure pain without displaying it. The moment you express frustration publicly, you create a new identity, not as a threat, not as a mystery, but as someone who needs something, and the world begins to treat you accordingly. Stay silent. Endure privately. Let them wonder how you never flinch. Never reveal your insecurity. In private, maybe, with someone you trust, but never in public, because what you confess, people begin to believe, even if it isn't true. Say, "I'm not good at this" often enough, and soon no one will trust you to be. Say, "I struggle with confidence," and the world will lower its expectations of you permanently. Machiavelli knew that appearances shape truth. Nothing kills authority faster than volunteering your weakness. So even when you're unsure, hold your frame. Let your internal doubt hide behind perfect posture. Influence doesn't come from what you say, it comes from what you don't. Never boast about your plans. You've seen them. People who can't stop talking about their next big move. Machiavelli would smile at them because he knew how to use their ambition against them. When you speak your plans in public, 2 things happen. People feel no urgency to support you because they assume you're already succeeding. And your enemies now have a map to sabotage you before you even begin. Announce nothing. Move quietly until your results are undeniable. And when people ask, shrug, smile, offer nothing. Power grows best in silence when no one sees it coming. Never take public sides in petty conflicts. You may think defending someone publicly proves loyalty. In private, maybe it does, but in public, it makes you predictable. Machiavelli warned rulers, never involve yourself in the quarrels of others unless there's something to gain. When you step into disputes that don't concern you, you earn enemies you didn't need. You form alliances based on emotion, not strategy. Worst of all, you reveal your values before you have the power to enforce them. Let others expose themselves. Let them fight. You observe. And when the dust settles, you decide who benefits. You remember. You observe. You position. Public neutrality is not cowardice. It is the preservation of future dominance. The one who rushes to take sides burns bridges he hasn't yet crossed. The one who stays still keeps every option open.
Never show hunger for attention. There is no greater stench in public than desperation. The laughter you force, the validation you chase, the approval you beg for. Once people sense you need it, they own you. Machiavelli understood that the more you depend on others, the less they value you, especially when the dependence is emotional. When you walk into a room trying to be liked, you become replaceable. But when you enter with composure, calm, and quiet indifference, you create a presence they can't define. And what they can't define, they can't dismiss. Want influence? Want power? Then be the one who doesn't need the room. Let the room need you. Never break under pressure, not even slightly. Public stress, confrontation, accusation, these are all tests. Most people fail not by exploding, but by leaking. A tightening voice, a flinch, a stiff posture. The audience senses it instantly, even subconsciously, and in that moment, your myth fractures. Machiavelli would never show pressure. He would absorb it, like armor absorbing arrows. Even when boiling inside, he would remain still. Not robotic, but controlled. Because once people realize that nothing ruffles you, you become a psychological landmark, a figure they must adjust themselves around. Never over-explain yourself. This is the sin of those who fear misunderstanding more than insignificance. You say something bold, and the crowd reacts. You panic, you clarify, soften, defend, and in doing so, you hand them control of your frame. Now you're reacting to their perception instead of defining your own. Machiavelli never explained. He redirected. When questioned, he'd say, "Perhaps you misunderstood me." Or, "Perhaps you understood me perfectly." Either way, he stayed in control of the meaning. So the next time you feel the urge to justify yourself, don't. Let your silence force them to question their assumptions. Never reveal bitterness toward rejection. Someone ignores you, excludes you, chooses someone else. You feel that sting of pain, and your ego wants to show it. But public bitterness is self-sabotage. It screams, "I noticed, I care, and I'm weakened by it." Machiavelli would call that emotional suicide. When you're overlooked or dismissed, respond with detachment. Not sarcasm, not false laughter, just stillness. Make it seem like they've freed you, as if your attention is a resource and they've just removed themselves from access. Because they probably expected you to chase, and when you don't, the power dynamic shifts instantly. Never publicly criticize someone more powerful, not because they don't deserve it, but because you don't benefit. Calling out someone above you only achieves two things. People perceive you as jealous, even if you're right, and the powerful now see you as a threat to neutralize. Machiavelli would certainly identify their weakness, but he would never strike first in public. He would wait until their guard dropped, wait until the timing turned their own strength into a liability. Sometimes he'd even elevate them just to let their fall look natural. If you must criticize, do it surgically, strategically, and preferably through someone else. Because power doesn't lie in saying what's true. It lies in deciding when the truth is useful.
Power is not just preserved by what you avoid. It's constructed through what you project with precision. When you remove the weak behaviors Machiavelli despised, you create a vacuum. And the world does not tolerate a vacuum. People will fill it with their own assumptions, whether you design it or not. That's when the game shifts, from avoiding destruction to crafting dominance. Not with aggression, not with ego, but with stillness, positioning, and selective revelation. You've already learned what to subtract. Now you must learn what to install in its place. Replace complaints with unreadable endurance. When people complain, they broadcast need. When you endure silently, you create mystery. Machiavelli would never show pain, he would channel it. In public, your silence in adversity becomes a weapon. It unsettles people. Why? Because people fear what they can't measure. If you're under pressure and still unshaken, they begin to wonder, how bad is it really? Why isn't he breaking? What is he planning in return? You don't need to smile. You don't need to pretend. You simply radiate emotional indifference, the kind that makes others question their own strength in comparison. Your pain becomes your weapon, but only if no one can see it clearly. Replace insecurity with strategic ambiguity. Insecurity signals weakness. Ambiguity creates power. The insecure over-explain, overshare, seek correction. Machiavellian ambiguity is different. It's intentional uncertainty. You don't say, "I don't know what I'm doing." You say, "I have something in mind," and then say, "Nothing more." You don't admit confusion. You asked questions that redirect focus. You're not pretending to know everything. You're making them unsure what you know. Once people believe you're playing a longer game, they start overthinking. And the more they analyze you, the more control you have. Ambiguity makes you unpredictable, and unpredictability commands respect. Replace boasting with subtle power signals. Announcing power weakens it. Revealing it by accident, that's how you own the frame. The powerful never list achievements. They let them leak. You're not a leader because you say you are. You're a leader because others naturally look to you when the room is uncertain. You don't tell people you're building something. They notice that your time has become unavailable. You don't declare victory. They see your quiet calm while others celebrate. That's power. Not in display, but in delay. When you master this, even your silence becomes a symbol of motion. Replace public loyalty gestures with quiet allegiance. When everyone is shouting their side, you remain silent, not out of apathy, but strategy, because the powerful value influence over approval. The strongest form of loyalty is the kind no one sees. Machiavelli always built alliances behind closed doors. You can support someone, you can be loyal, but doing it in public, that's theater, and it usually costs more than it's worth. Protect someone in secret, and they'll trust you forever. Stay neutral in public, and you remain untouchable. That's the move. Power is not in the noise, it's in the restraint. Would you like me to write the final closing section, a Machiavellian-style conclusion that ties all these lessons together into a powerful ending monologue?
Privately, rule publicly by revealing nothing. Replace attention-seeking with controlled withdrawal. The loudest person in the room is almost always the weakest. So instead of entering with noise, enter with absence. Don't speak unless the moment is already waiting for your voice. Don't laugh unless it punctuates silence. Don't stand where everyone gathers. Stand just outside their orbit and let attention drift toward you. Humans are drawn to contrast, and in a room full of performers, the one who holds himself apart becomes the anchor, the gravitational force everyone else orbits. Machiavelli understood that a ruler doesn't win through volume, but through gravity. Power is not in commanding attention, it's in making attention gravitate toward you. Replace breakdown with premeditated stillness. When challenged, don't defend yourself, don't attack, don't try to win the moment. Instead, use what Machiavelli would call preset postures, deliberate stillness designed to interrupt the rhythm of others, the long pause before responding, the emotionless stare that refuses escalation, the quiet lean back after being interrupted, the refusal to mirror another's panic. These physical micro-movements disarm people. When they expect a reaction and get nothing, they collapse into their own confusion. Your calm becomes provocative. And when they unravel, you appear as though you planned the entire encounter. Replace over-explanation with micro-mystery. The more you talk, the easier you are to define. The less you talk, the more they project. And when people project onto you, you own their imagination. So instead of explaining a decision, say, "Let's see how it plays out." Instead of clarifying your behavior, say, "It made sense to me." Now they must work to understand you, and in that effort they create meanings far larger than your intent. Machiavelli never wanted to be understood. He wanted to be interpreted, because interpretations are always more powerful than truth. Replace bitterness with a quiet exit. When you're rejected or ignored, never retaliate, never justify. Simply disappear. Not in anger, in cold, refined detachment. Because the one who removes himself without spectacle creates unease in everyone else. You didn't argue. You didn't plead. You withdrew. And now the crowd fills the silence with speculation. Did he know something we didn't? Was this strategic? Why does it feel like we just lost something valuable? You've made yourself scarce without damage, and that makes your return, if you choose to return, infinitely more powerful. Replace criticism with delayed precision. Never strike when offended. Wait. Watch. Let time strip away their defenses. Then, at the perfect moment, in a new context, reveal a truth so precise, so surgical, it looks accidental. But it isn't. It's vengeance perfected by restraint. Machiavelli never said, "That man is weak." He let the man's actions prove it, then whispered a single phrase to the right audience after the fall began. Power through words isn't loud. It's patient. Because control without perception is just invisible effort. Machiavelli never stayed silent unless that silence made others paranoid. This is the next evolution of power, shaping the image people build of you when you're not in the room. In public, you're not presenting your character, you're installing your legend. That legend isn't built through what you declare, but through what you allow people to assume. It's about curating perception before anyone else can define it.
Machiavelli didn't want to be understood. He wanted to be feared, admired, and followed without anyone knowing why. That's your goal now. Most people speak to fill silence. The Machiavellian speaks to create it. Public perception isn't shaped by what you say. It's shaped by the gaps between what you say. When you pause before answering, when you speak slowly, when you leave ideas hanging midair, people lean in. They project depth where you've given them nothing. They assume intelligence where you've only given space. This is your final weapon. Say less, mean more. Let silence become punctuation. Let pauses build tension. Let people finish your sentences in their own minds. You're no longer just a person expressing thoughts. You've become the mystery they can't stop trying to understand. Control eye contact like a weapon. There are only two ways to destroy someone in public without ever touching them: stare until they break, or refuse to acknowledge them at all. Machiavelli understood this centuries before psychology gave it words. Your gaze isn't just confidence, it's positioning. When someone tries to bait you, argue with you, or overperform in your direction, meet their eyes calmly. Don't flinch. Don't over-focus. Just wait. The moment they look away, everyone watching knows who truly held the power. And if someone beneath you tries to provoke you, erase them visually. Not with arrogance, but with cold indifference. That silence, that refusal to even recognize their existence, transforms them into nothing. The crowd sees it, and without a word spoken, they understand the social hierarchy. Respond to provocation with calm redirection. The most dominant person in any room isn't the one who wins arguments. It's the one who never needs to join them. When someone tries to corner you with criticism or sarcasm, you don't defend. You don't escalate. You pivot. A faint smile, a shift in tone,
a seamless redirection that leaves the aggressor exposed, looking emotional and uncomposed. The room notices. They see you didn't need to win the exchange. You simply walked past it. That's presence. And once people realize you can't be baited, they stop trying. They adjust to your rhythm. You begin to control not just perception, but the emotional temperature of the entire space. Build a myth around your absence. The strongest displays of power often happen when you're not even there. If you craft your image with precision, your name will start to travel through rooms without you. You speak little, you reveal less, but your silence creates curiosity, and curiosity breeds narrative. People begin to ask, what's he working on? Did you see how calm he stayed? He must know something. That's myth building, the low-frequency hum of reputation that moves on its own. To create it, become slightly less available than expected. Leave events early. Arrive just late enough to be noticed. Say enough to suggest depth, never enough to explain it. When your name is mentioned, there should always be a pause, a hesitation, a tone of respect, a quiet uncertainty. That's legend. And legends don't shout, they echo.
Let others defend you. Most people panic when their reputation is questioned. They rush to defend themselves, and in doing so, confirm the accusation. Machiavelli never would. Because the moment you defend yourself, you surrender the frame. Instead, he let others speak. He built quiet alliances, projected calm, and trusted that his silence carried enough authority that someone would step forward on his behalf. You must do the same. Speak so your words are quotable. Move so your silence is worth defending. And when someone challenges you in public, stay still. Say only, they're entitled to their opinion. Then wait. The room will handle the rest. The crowd will attack the attacker. You simply observe. That's how rulers operate. They don't fight rumors. They let the myth correct them. Master the exit moment. Machiavelli believed that timing is the hidden engine of perception. You can say the right thing at the wrong moment and lose everything. You can win a crowd and ruin it by leaving too late. The end of every interaction defines the memory of it. So leave while their interest is still rising. Exit before the applause fades. Walk away mid-conversation with a reason that sounds logical but leaves curiosity burning. I've got to handle something. Let's finish this another time. That's a good place to pause. Not smug, just precise. Because when you leave at the peak of attention, you take all the energy with you. When you're gone, they don't discuss what you said. They discuss why you left when you did. Now, you're no longer a participant. You're the figure they recall when the room is empty. Machiavelli didn't just teach tactics, he taught atmosphere. Your purpose in public isn't to impress, it's to unsettle certainty, to ignite curiosity, to become a presence that lingers in people's minds long after you've left. You don't want to be remembered for what you did. You want to be remembered because no one can quite explain what you are. But presence alone is defense. It shields you. Power begins when you use that presence to influence the atmosphere around you. Machiavelli never wanted to simply command respect. He wanted to move through the world like a loaded weapon. Not always fired, but always noticed. Most people stop at restraint. They believe silence and self-control make them powerful. But Machiavelli knew restraint is only half of mastery. The other half is precision, the ability to direct energy with surgical timing. You don't just enter a room anymore. You begin to shift its temperature. You destabilize without a word. Use silence as a trap, not a shield. There's silence that protects, and there's silence that exposes. The latter draws people in and makes them reveal themselves. When someone provokes you, don't respond immediately. Respond with stillness. Let the pause hang long enough for their insecurity to echo back at them. They'll start explaining, justifying, overcompensating. The more they talk, the weaker they look. You, meanwhile, remain motionless, calm, centered, unreadable. Machiavelli used silence as a test. Who can endure it, and who crumbles beneath it? The foolish fill the void. The powerful let the void consume.
When questioned in public, never answer directly. Redirect instead. If someone asks, "Why did you do that?" say, "Why does that interest you?" If they ask, "What's your next move?" reply, "Wouldn't it ruin it if I said?" You've just shifted the frame. They were interrogating you. Now they're explaining themselves. When you answer, they control the pace. When you make them question their own motives, you own the room. Subtle movement creates more dominance than loud gestures. While others perform with volume and speed, you use minimal motion as a psychological weapon. Hold a glance a beat too long. Let a smirk appear and disappear at the perfect moment. Take a slow, deliberate sip while someone is speaking passionately. Each move communicates control, not because you're trying to impress, but because you're unaffected. This is the art of quiet intimidation. The more still you become, the more others start adjusting to your rhythm. Praise strategically. Never criticize upward. Instead, offer precise, calculated compliments that protect you while elevating your status. Say things like, "His timing is always flawless," or "She has a presence you can feel before she even speaks." Sharp, truthful, unemotional. The powerful remember who protects their image, and they quietly include you in their sphere. You gain cover, not through submission, but through alignment. You become the invisible ally they can't afford to lose. And finally, never reveal who you're really observing. In public, let your attention appear casual, but internally, you're studying. Who's competing for the spotlight? Who's pretending indifference but copying your energy? Who's watching you too closely? Machiavelli would never stare directly at his true opponent. He'd make everyone wonder who held his focus. That uncertainty, that subtle misdirection, is where influence begins. You're no longer a participant in social interaction. You are the invisible axis around which the room turns. Calm, unreadable, deliberate. Not loud power, but gravitational power. The kind that makes others orbit without knowing why. Machiavelli would scan the room without ever letting the room know it was being scanned. His power didn't come from commanding attention, it came from harvesting information invisibly. To watch without being seen is the highest form of control. The person who studies others is dangerous. The one who studies silently is untouchable. When you begin to notice patterns, who's pretending, who's envious, who's quietly insecure, you stop reacting to people and start positioning them. Not today, not tomorrow, but at the exact moment when it matters most.
Respond to disrespect with absence, not argument. Nothing fractures a public dynamic faster than your sudden silence. When someone cuts you off, undermines you, or mocks you in front of others, don't flinch, don't correct, don't defend. Simply withdraw your focus. Redirect your words, your attention, your energy towards someone else. Let the offender feel the sudden vacuum of your presence. They'll keep talking, louder, faster, desperate to re-establish control. But the more they perform, the weaker they appear. You didn't punish them, you vanished. And now their own insecurity becomes the punishment. Learn to drop timed phrases that echo long after you've left. You don't need speeches, you need sentences that haunt. One calm, precise line delivered at the right moment can cut deeper than 1,000 words. Machiavelli understood this when he said, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." You want to embody that. Say things like, "You'll understand later," or "Sometimes silence speaks louder than answers." Simple, emotionless, and unforgettable. The words replay themselves in people's minds because they sound like the beginning of a truth they were never given. That's psychological follow-through, when your presence continues to work even in your absence. Let every public setting turn you into a living riddle. While most people try to be understood, you create tension between what you show and what you conceal. Warm eyes, cold tone, still body, unreadable aura. You engage one moment, withdraw the next, always courteous, never predictable. That contrast makes people uneasy, curious, alert. They can't categorize you, and the mind obsesses over what it can't define. In that confusion, you gain permanence. You're not just a man in the room anymore. You are the distortion in the atmosphere, the point of quiet gravity that bends attention without demanding it. That's what Machiavelli perfected. Not a figure of noise and dominance, but a presence that unsettles the air itself. A man who doesn't just hold power, but reshapes clarity wherever he stands.